Their forecast for industry profits in 2018, citing rising fuel and labor costs. They are also warning that higher interest rates and a host of geopolitical tensions would add to operating risks. Now, the International Air Transport Association, which represents about 280 carriers, says the airline industry is expected to post almost $34 billion profit this year. But the regional outlook for Africa remains negative. And for more on this, we joined via Skype by aviation specialist Linden Birns. A very good evening to you, Linden. Thank you so much for joining us. Very grim prospects for the aviation industry, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. It's a mixed bag. Globally, we're looking at, as you said, close to $34 billion worth of profit. But actually, that's pretty slim when you think that that's on a revenue base of $834 billion. So, the average return on capital is only about 8.5%, and that's down on last year. Africa, yes, you're quite correct. IATA has said 2018 is pretty much more of the same being a collective $100 billion loss across Africa. But we need to put that in perspective. In 2014, that was a $900 million loss, so things are looking up. We're seeing the per-passenger profit for airlines around the world moving slightly. In Africa, it's improved. Africa is the only continent in the world where actually airlines make a net loss per passenger. Last year, it was $1.66 per passenger. This year, it's minus $1.55. Compare that to North America, where airlines are averaging a profit of $15.67 per passenger, and in the Middle East, $5.89. And our closest rival, Latin America, where they're making a profit of $2.95 per passenger. So there's still a lot of work to be done here in Africa. But the prospects are looking good in terms of demand for traffic. We're seeing the demand in Africa for traffic, both passenger and cargo, only up. The market is set to double in size over the next 10, 15 years. But there are some clouds on the horizon, not least the high price of fuel. And we've seen the cost of jet fuel go up 43% over the last year. It's now close to $90 a barrel for jet fuel. And at the same time, we're also seeing rising labor costs around the world and, of course, here in Africa. So those are going to result in, I think, we're going to see some adjustments in the price of air travel for you and me.
And having said that, Linden, the industry is on track to achieve a $33 billion net profit this year. What then do you think gives IATA the confidence about this when the regional outlook, for instance, as you've said, for Africa remains negative as African airlines are still struggling and with a slow emergence from the 2014 low point of financial losses. And of course, the profits have been trending very slow since early 2016.
Look, there are a few things that one has to consider when you look at Africa. There are pockets of profitability in some protective markets like Ethiopia, for example, whereas in South Africa we have a very open and liberal market. It's open to all players, all comers, anyone who meets the safety requirements and the capital requirements can have a go. And that means we've got a lot more competition. You've also got some countries where the market really isn't big enough to sustain an airline, but the countries need the airline as a vital bridge for their economies, a country like Namibia, for example. And there you've got to really measure the economic benefit that the airline brings to the country rather than the profitability. And that's the case in a lot of African countries. You've got to take that much broader econometric view of the contribution they make. Now, as I said, the market in Africa, demand for passenger and cargo traffic is increasing. We are seeing an average annual growth in demand for around about 5.5%. That means that the demand for passenger traffic, the size of that market, is doubling every 15 years and trebling every 20 years. And that's ahead of the global average, and it does tend to track GDP growth.
And it's interesting that you made mention of increasing capacity. Now, the IATA chief executive earlier on today did say that they are in a capacity crisis, and we've seen governments steadily turning to private firms to increase capacity. What then do you think, in your view, would be the perfect model to increase such capacity?
Well, look, yeah, we're seeing, as I said, demand's up, but the crucial thing is making sure that you don't flood the market with capacity, with surplus capacity. So at the moment, we're seeing global demand increasing by about 7%, and we're seeing capacity rising by about 6.7%. So it's really only a small margin between the two, and it's that careful management of the supply and demand equation that has helped the industry to become profitable on a sort of stable basis for the last 8 years or so.
Now, fuel costs, labor costs and interest rates are all projected to rise this year. So how will passengers be cushioned against such increases?
Well, I think we are going to see some adjustments in fares. I think they're going to have to go up. The fuel prices have gone up close to 43% on what they were before.
All right, Linden, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.